Hello, and welcome to the Blue Monkey Forensics video series. In this video, we are going to look at how to wipe hard drives with built-in Windows tools. Please help me out by hitting the subscribe button so I can live passionately. I was teaching a forensics class a few weeks ago, and the topic came up on wiping drives. This was an intermediate class, so I figured everyone already knows how to do it. And I thought I would learn a new technique, so I asked a question on how the students in the class were doing their wipes. The responses I got just shocked me. A few common but incorrect responses was to just format the drive using the default settings. A few others answered that you need to delete all the files first, and then you can reformat the drive. But the most shocking response was one student who claims that the quick format works, but you have to do it 23 times. I tried to convince everyone to just use Linux, but since most folks were dedicated to Windows, let's go ahead and walk through the correct ways of wiping a hard drive on Windows without using third-party applications or using dedicated hardware erasers. Let's look at how to wipe a drive using graphical user interface. Let's go ahead and bring up disk management. You can go ahead and right-click down on the Windows start bar and then select Disk Management. And then once you plug in your drive that needs to be wiped, you can see that it's going to pop up. For me, it is Disk 1. And here I see that my disk has actually 3 partitions. So what you need to do is for each one of the partitions, I would recommend that you unassign a drive letter. So go to the Change Drive Letter and Path menu and select Remove. And so we basically do this for each of the partitions. And after that, select the partitions and just go ahead and say Delete Volume. And you want to basically delete all of the volumes. Otherwise, if you have multiple volumes and you select Format, it is only going to format that particular partition. So once you have unallocated all of your volumes, we can go ahead and create a new simple volume. And then continue to walk through. Let's go ahead and take the entire drive. We will take the default drive letter setting, and then it's going to ask us whether we want to perform a quick format. We want to uncheck, so we do not want a quick format. What quick format is going to do is literally just wipe your partition table, your FAT table, and that's it. What we want to do in this case is that we want to actually have the entire drive wiped with zeros. So you can go ahead and select the file system. I'm going to select NTFS. For the allocation unit size, I'm going to leave it as a default because I am not that smart to figure out what the optimal settings are for my usage. And then lastly, you can go ahead and set a volume name. So once you're ready, just go ahead and hit the Enter key and let it format. Right, we can do the wiping through a DOS command line. So what we can do is go down to the search bar and type in CMD to bring up the command line window. And the program we're going to use is called Format. So if you want to take a look at all of the options, you can do Format space /?. And this will give you all of the options. If you look at the help page here, it says that we have to specify a volume to format. And the volume is specified by either a mount point, a volume name, or drive letter. So we're going to say format, and then we're going to give it a drive letter. In this case, I'm going to give it D:. And then the next option to specify is /FS for file system, followed by the colon. And then you can specify NTFS or exFAT or FAT32, etc. I'm just going to go ahead and pick NTFS just for demonstration purposes. And then next, you can set a volume name by doing /V:, and then giving it the name. I'm going to give it staging 2 as the name. And then lastly, I'm going to give it the /Q option for quick format. So one of the problems with quick format is that it actually doesn't overwrite any of the data. It literally just overwrites the file table, and that's it. So once it's done, and it's going to be done very, very quickly, as you see here, I didn't speed up this portion of the video. It's already done. So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring up FTK Imager, and I'm going to run it as administrator. And then I'm going to bring in the physical disk, which in my case is going to be the 16 gig thumb drive. If I actually click into the drive contents here and I do a find command and I look for the word Halloween, which is contained in one of the documents that I put on that thumb drive, we can see that it quickly finds that file. And so this basically proves to me that quick format does not delete any of the data, right? Because the data is still here. So now we're going to run the format command again, and this time instead of the /Q, we're going to say /P : and then a number. And for me, I'm going to put 0. And so what the /P means is that it is going to overwrite every sector on the volume with zeros. And then when it's done with that, it is going to rewrite again all the sectors in that volume with a different random number. And the /P number is going to be the number of times that it repeats. So if it's 0 in my case, that means it is just going to wipe it with zeros and that's it. It's going to stop. If you put in the number 2, that means it's going to write it with zeros once, and then it's going to overwrite it with random numbers twice for a total of 3 times. So again, I don't need to wipe it more than once, so I'm just going to do /P : 0 and hit enter. And this is going to take a little while to finish up because it is literally wiping the drive. And when we're done, I can launch FTK Imager again. And then same thing, I'm going to go ahead and select the entire drive and then do a find of the word Halloween. And it fails to find it because the drive has been wiped. One thing to notice with the format command in both the GUI environment and the command line environment is that you specified a volume to format. Right? And a volume is any partition on the drive. So if you don't choose properly, you may only be formatting part of a drive. And since our objective is to cleanly erase an entire drive, not just part of the drive, let's look at a better solution using the diskpart utility in the command line. So let's start with the target USB that we want to wipe not plugged in. So from your command prompt, go ahead and type diskpart, and then it will launch the diskpart utility. And you can tell that you're in the diskpart utility by the prompt that says diskpart and then the greater than symbol. So the first thing we want to do is do a list disk to see what we have. And in this case, we can see that there's only one disk online, and it's my internal drive. So now we can go ahead and plug in the target drive that needs to be wiped. I'm gonna wait a second or so for the computer to get caught up. Now let's go ahead and do the list disk command again. And we can see that the second drive has shown up, disk 1. Right? And the size is 15 gigs, is close enough to the 16 gig thumb drive I plugged in. So now what I can do is type select disk and then give it the number. It's the second disk. I'm going to type select disk 2. And as you can see, I made a boo-boo here because the second disk is not number 2, it's number 1. Right? So you have to be kind of careful. So I'm going to type select disk 1. And because you saw that I messed up, and it's fairly easy to mess up, I want to double check to make sure that I have the correct disk selected before I erase it. So now I'm going to type list disk. And as you can see, there is an asterisk next to the selected disk. So in fact, it is the proper disk that was selected. So now I know that I didn't select my C drive. Wiping my C drive would be bad. So now what I can do is type the clean command, C-L-E-A-N, will clean the drive. Now if you just type the clean command by itself, what it's going to do is just clean out the partitioning tables again. It is not actually clearing off any of the underlying data. So once again, I'm going to use FTK Imager to take a look and look for that file Halloween, which we do find, right? So that means if you just type clean, it does not wipe any of the data. So as we do this again, I'm going to go back and do diskpart, list out the disks, and then select disk 1. And now I'm going to type clean space all. What this is going to do is it is going to go ahead and erase the drive. So let's go ahead and do that. And the only unfortunate thing about this command is that it gives you pretty much no feedback whatsoever until it is completely done. So you have no idea what it's doing. Hopefully it's doing the right thing. And when it's done, let's go ahead and type exit, get back to the command prompt. And I'm once again going to launch FTK Imager to take a look at what was done. So we're going to load in the physical drive of that thumb drive, but I'm more concerned about the actual data. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the search term for Halloween. And if we wait till it searches through the entire 16 gig drive, it will come back and tell us that it is not found, which is what I expected, right? Because we cleaned the entire drive. So just to be clear, when you do a diskpart, it does not exactly write all zeros to the entire drive. It writes zeros to most of the drive. The exception is the first sector of the drive or master boot record if the disk is partitioned with the MBR partitioning scheme, and also the secondary GPT header if the disk is partitioned with the GPT partitioning scheme. These locations get overwritten with information which makes the disks unallocated and not initialized. In this state, it is ready for a new simple volume to be created. If the drive is completely wiped, the disk management would display raw, healthy primary partition, which allows you to format the partition with the right click of the menu. I used a Linux machine to run the xxd command on the cleaned drives, and as you can see here, the MBR was overwritten with new information, but the rest of the drive is zeroed out. And in this screen here, we see that the disk which was partitioned with the GPT scheme has data written in the last 33 sectors, which is the space for the secondary GPT header and partitioning entries. All right, so that brings us to the end of this video where we looked at using native Windows tools to wipe a hard drive. We looked at the format commands in both Windows GUI and the command line, which will wipe a selected volume. And we looked at the diskpart utility, which performs the wipe on the drive level as opposed to just a volume. Hope you enjoyed it, and if so, click on the thumbs up icon to like this video. Please hit the subscribe button to get notified when the next video comes out. Also, please leave me messages in the comment section below so I know what you liked and didn't like, or what you may want to see in future videos. See you next time.